this is called is basically what men really want, honest conversations with quality men, such as yourself. So I'm interviewing men who are single, men who are married, men who are widowed, men of all ages, men from all different backgrounds, but all westernized men, let's say. And the reason I'm doing this is because I'm helping women to date better. Basically, the women that I work with are single women over 30 who want to have a serious, committed, long-term monogamous relationship. So that's what I'm doing. I'm helping them. So I'm interviewing men, asking them different questions. But the main question, which I'm going to start you off as, is what do men really want? So as you're what I would consider a quality man, what do you really want from a woman?
Well, thank you, Julia. I want somebody who is, well, I haven't been in the market for dating.
And I do understand you're married. so like what, you know.
What did I want?
Right. No, but it's even like when you think of your spouse and why you married her, you know, it's even like what were the criteria that were sort of there.
In no particular order of importance, there is intellectual capability, intellectual compatibility. There is compatibility of interests. Obviously, there has to be attraction. We have to have similar goals, for what we want out of life and how we want to get there. For me, compatible religious values were also important, and so on. But it all comes down, I think, to compatibility, but there has to be attraction.
To start with. Okay, so this is actually, I'm going to break it down now into elements. And I'm coming to you from a point of view of someone who's married. So I want to understand, so first of all, the attraction. How important was that to start off? And what kind of women would you say you found attractive?
Well, I never took a scientific approach.
Okay.
But if when one first sees someone, if there isn't some level of physical attraction, then it probably wouldn't get started at all.
Okay.
So I think whether somebody will admit that or not, I mean, it must be true, because if you meet someone and you think no, then you just wouldn't bother.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, if you meet somebody and there is some level of attraction, and you engage with them, you could still hit the no switch.
Yeah, of course.
Or not.
Yeah.
So I think
So how important? So you're saying basically attraction is in the beginning. If there isn't attraction, it's just forget it.
But it's in no particular order. But it's physical, it's intellectual, it's religious, it's cultural.
Let's start with physical. Well, actually, for you, I know that religious was actually really important. So you had the physical and you had the religious. Was that a combined filter? Like if they weren't the religion you wanted, the same religion that you are, that would be a no.
Absolutely.
Okay, and if they weren't physically attractive in the way that you considered physically attractive, that would be a no.
Right.
Okay, can you describe to me that physical, like what were you looking for?
I would say that it's not so much, I wasn't fixated on what I was looking for. It was more, it would be easier to tell you what turned me off than to tell you what I was looking for.
Okay,
because there was it wasn't like, blonde hair, blue eyes.
Yeah, so you didn't have a type?
No, not to my knowledge.
Right, but was there like a figure type at all?
Probably. I was usually attracted to women who had a figure as opposed to women who were sylphs.
Sylphs
big. Kate Moss.
Oh, okay. So you preferred not skinny. You preferred
somebody with a figure as opposed to a stick figure.
Right. Okay. That's actually amazing because lots of men have said the same. Basically, that there's too skinny.
Well, I like a woman to look like a woman.
Right.
And a man to look like a man.
Yeah. So is there a too big?
Well, fat does. I didn't want somebody who didn't respect herself. So
you equate her being overweight with not looking after herself.
Well, I did at the time. I
Right.
think today I would be a little bit more tolerant.
More
But that's
tolerant,
some
yeah,
of that is
because-
age, because it's not. It's. I've had periods in my life where I've been very fit, and
Right.
periods when I've been heavy.
Right.
But you know, when you're single and you're young and you're
Yeah.
dating,
Yeah.
you don't think about those things.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
as
yeah.
you get middle-aged, well,
Yeah. Can I ask your age now?
I'm 56.
And what age were you when you got married? Well, when you met your wife, let's say.
We were 34 when we met.
Okay, both of you. So you're both the same age.
No, she's 3 years younger.
Okay. So, right, so at the time you were in your 30s, so in your 30s, obviously you're more, it's not necessarily the case for, lots of men, even in their 50s, they still have the same
Of course.
ideas, but you think you're more tolerant now.
Well, I've seen enough people who have gotten cancer
Right.
or other diseases,
Yeah.
and not everybody has the ability to control their stress and
Yeah.
or their fitness or their schedules,
Yeah.
and so these are things that I wasn't
So
thinking about.
that's actually something I want to ask you about, because the physical is quite important for men, more so than for women, I think.
Probably.
Obviously you've been married 20-something years,
20.
20 years, right? So from, the day you got married at 35, 36,
Actually, I was 37 when we got married 3 years
37,
after we met,
right.
and it's 19 years.
yeah, okay. So 37 to 19 years later, I mean, there's going to be lots of changes that you both are going to undergo, both
Right.
you and her.
Of course.
So how important is that? Because I see a lot of divorce. I personally have, probably, a large amount, maybe, I'm just thinking how many, of my clients, a significant percentage is women that were left by men after 20 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, it's not an insignificant amount to make it
Yeah.
worthwhile, of the clients in my workshops or in, my one-to-one clients. So, a lot of that, I wonder how much of that, some of them were left for younger women, some of them were left for same age women, but maybe more fit. How important is it that she maintains herself physically within the marriage? And obviously there will be times when she's, up and down. Obviously you have kids, so the woman,
Yeah.
will be heavier at points. We've all done that.
I think the way I would answer that question is that, it's important to me, that we all look after ourselves.
Right.
That doesn't mean we should have, the bodies of a 20-year-old underwear model.
Right. Which
What's
some women never have, by the way.
or men.
Yeah.
In fact, there was an article in the New York Times this week, and there was the Calvin Klein underwear model from the mid-1980s, and it was like, where are you now? And
Right.
it was just very funny.
And where is he now?
He's
gained weight?
an actor.
Oh, right.
He didn't. Well, he was dressed, so you
Okay,
couldn't
so
tell.
he still look good.
But
okay.
it was just very. It was what I
Yeah.
happened to think of that.
Yeah.
But so what one's idea is of fit and healthy,
Yeah.
and lifestyle choices. It
Yeah.
changes over time as well.
I mean, I guess the question is, in a relationship, because you've had a long-term relationship, and I'm sure you know lots of friends who have been in long-term relationships, and I have seen women left by men because of different reasons, but one of the reasons has been, because of weight gain or because of
Yeah.
changes. He married this pretty together girl who's elegant and blah, blah, and all of a sudden she's with the kids and she's a bit dowdy and she gains, 20 pounds or 20 kilos or whatever it is.
There's a big difference between 20 pounds and
Yeah,
20 kilos.
yeah, true. Yeah, very true. But
20 pounds is not the end of the world. 20 kilos is.
Well, yeah, I would say either one is significant. But I'm just, wondering how, is that like a symptom, would you, because I know women who have gained 20 kilos and are still very happily married with their husbands.
That's a lot.
Because
right?
everything else is
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm kind of wondering, would a man leave a woman just for that? Or is that a symptom of the whole big picture?
I think
And you leave,
different people
Yeah.
have different priorities. So there will be some men who, if you gain 5 pounds, they're going to, not want to have sex.
Right.
There'll be other men
Yeah.
who wouldn't notice if you gained a stone and a half.
Right.
And that's individual.
Okay.
So different, there are N criteria and everybody weights them differently,
Right.
I think.
Okay. So it's not, you know, is that kind of like dependent on the man if he's very, you know, visually focused, you know, as far as,
Probably. I mean,
you know, how important, what I kind of want to know is how important is it that the woman make sure that she keeps looking good for her man, let's say.
I don't think any woman should ever look good for her man. I think every woman should look good for herself.
Okay.
And if you
Fairly
can't look
put.
good for yourself, then you don't respect yourself, therefore you're going to not be able to have a successful relationship.
Right. Okay. Fairly put. But some women just, they lose the, you know, that becomes, let's say, not the most important thing. And it's just, you know, it just
Sure.
becomes a priority that goes out the window when you have little kids, when you have
Sure.
work, when you have lots of things to balance, you know. How important is it for them to keep that as a priority?
It's very difficult to be prescriptive because, you know, if we're talking, and by the way, these things are true for men just as much as they are for
but
women.
women are less visually oriented.
I understand, but I think the principle applies for anyone.
Yeah.
You know, I think that, you know, if somebody is more affluent as opposed to less affluent, then they have the ability to, you know, outsource certain mundane tasks to
Right.
a greater degree,
Yeah.
which gives them the freedom to spend their time, you know, how they want to. You know, so, you know, if you've got a bit more money, then you can go to the gym,
Yeah.
you know, or you can go to the hairdresser,
Right.
or, you know,
Yeah.
keep up
So
to.
you're saying women should make sure to do that.
Well,
It's an important priority to keep in there.
I think that, so we all have different definitions of what looking good is.
Yeah.
And that's not a function of how much money you have. It's about your self-esteem. So, you know,
Except there are certain things that people, men and women, list among the list of, you know, attractive people might be rated as 8s by some, but 8/10s by others.
Correct.
But most of the time they're somewhere above 7, let's say.
yeah, but what I'm saying is it's not like you need a designer dress to look great. You know,
Oh, yeah,
you
yeah, yeah,
So
completely.
I'm saying
Yeah,
it's not
yeah,
a fun.
yeah.
This my answer isn't. It's not a function
Oh, okay.
of money.
Yeah.
It's because, I mean, you know, some of the most beautiful women I have seen don't wear very much makeup, if any.
Right.
You know, it's not a function of what you're spending. I mean, what you're spending helps, but it's not a function of what you're spending. It really comes from within. And I think that it's about the attitude of wanting to look after yourself.
Okay.
So, you know, for example, we're sitting on the 6th floor of the building we're in. We took the lift. That's the first time in months I've taken the lift. I always walk up and down the
Oh,
stairs.
right, because I had
Always. Well, we had lots of things to carry,
lots of
so
stuff.
it was fun.
That's why, yeah.
But, you know, it's a subtle choice, but by having the mentality that I will walk wherever possible,
Yeah.
it's just.
You have one bag, I have two.
No, I wasn't saying
Yeah.
it as a, you know,
Yeah.
to make a statement other than about myself,
Right.
which is that, you know, if I can do something that causes me to exercise a bit more as opposed to a bit less, then I will.
Okay.
So that's not a function of money, but it's, you know, I want to make sure that
Yeah.
I stay fit, and therefore, you know, when I'm in the building, I will walk. If I'm in the underground, I always walk.
Yeah.
You know, if I can walk to a meeting, I will walk.
Yeah.
And so, yes, that takes a bit more time out of my day, but it's part of my fitness regime. So, you know, exercising makes me feel good. And, you know, I mean, hopefully it makes me, you know, maintain what I look like, but it also makes me feel good, which makes me more productive, which makes me happier. And so I think that key to one of the most important things in any relationship is that, you know, you have to feel good in yourself, because how can you have a relationship with somebody else if you don't respect and you're not happy with yourself?
Totally. Okay, so then moving on to the next bit of, you said you had some obvious turn-offs, like some things that would turn you off. You mentioned that before, you said you knew exactly what would turn you off. So what would turn you off in that initial interaction with somebody?
Well, I suppose if somebody really were, you know, obese, that's,
Yeah.
you know, that's a turn off. If
Yeah.
somebody were not well groomed, that would be, and we all have good days and bad
Yeah.
days, but if, you know, and again, I'm not talking about the labels one is wearing,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's
yeah.
the fact that you don't respect yourself to put yourself, you know, to brush your hair.
Yeah,
you know,
okay.
You know, or you haven't brushed your teeth, you know, it's,
Right.
you know, so if somebody isn't well groomed,
And what about like personality, like conversation-wise? Were there any turn-offs with that?
Sure. I mean, it's,
You know, even if you met somebody attractive and then you're kind of like,
well, for me, if the person were ill-educated, that would be a turn-off, because I'm interested in having, you know, a certain repartee,
right,
which usually comes with having an education. And that's not that, not all of my friends, are as well educated as I am. Some are more, but many are less. So, but I think there has to. So I'm not talking about having a diploma necessarily, but the person has to be interested in the world around them and to have the ability to converse and debate about the issues that we all face today.
Okay, then what was it? You know, you probably dated lots of women before you met your wife. What was it about her in particular that made you want to propose to her? What was it that like boiled out to you about her that was like, oh wow, this is a woman I want to share my life with?
She is a force to be reckoned with.
Okay.
And most of the women I dated, rightly or wrongly, I always felt that it was that they were focused on finding a husband. That was their mission.
Right.
And that once they found the husband, it was job done.
Right.
And that was not what I want. My wife, works. She, is a professional. She's well educated. She works very hard. She has opinions, and.
So you like the fact that she's successful?
Yes, because it shows that she has. She's not dependent on me to have a life.
Right.
We have built a life together, and that's wonderful, and I wanted that. But it wasn't like she was hanging around waiting for someone to show up to give her a life.
Right.
She was quite independent.
Right.
I believe 1 + 1 makes 3, but I wasn't looking for someone to hang on my arm.
Right.
I wanted somebody who was a partner who,
Do you think that's what a lot of successful men want? Because, I just had a very different kind of interview earlier today where he was saying successful men don't want really successful women.
I think that...
So that's quite, a different opinion.
I think that most men will say they want that, but don't want it.
Okay.
Because, I have a cousin who is the CEO of a major institution, and she intimidates men.
Right.
She's a lovely, charming person who's very charitable and interested in the arts and has a very rich life, but most men are afraid of her because she is so accomplished.
Right.
And so I think that a lot of, I think that it's particularly true in Europe, more so.
But your wife was kind of that woman who was so accomplished, but you still chose her.
Yes.
So, and you claimed that as one of the reasons you chose her.
Well, I wouldn't have articulated that at the time, but reflecting on it, I liked the fact that she would stand up for herself, that she had a point of view.
Okay.
That I liked the fact that she was in the workforce as opposed to not in the workforce.
Right. So it wasn't the fact that she was successful; it was the fact that she.
Yeah. She was out there in the world.
So she was independent. So there is something about the independence of it.
Yes.
She's not looking to hang on to you and to mooch off of you. But there is, there's kind of a double-sided coin, isn't there? So the woman who's independent on her own, but not so independent and successful that she frightens men.
Exactly. And that is hard.
So that actually means, so there's a fine tightrope to be walked.
Yes.
Where the woman has to kind of downplay her accomplishments in a way, while at the same time showcasing that she's independent enough that she doesn't need him.
Yes.
So yes, I make money, but I have what I love about my job is I have plenty of time for a social life or whatever it is. So if she's a very successful banker, she's got to somehow.
I think if somebody were extremely successful as my cousin is, that probably wouldn't have worked because we all want somebody who's going to make time for us too. And
So somehow that your cousin would then need to sort of downplay her accomplishments in a way to get the man that she really wants.
yes, but ultimately, if she did that, the man might be happy, but I think ultimately she would be unhappy.
Yeah, but there has to be some middle ground so that she could...
Well, in her case, the middle ground is that she tends to date men who are much older.
Right.
And it's nothing to do with the money because she's got all the money she needs.
Yeah.
But it's because they can, they've achieved what they're going to achieve. They're very successful. They're not competing anymore,
Right.
and for them, it works because they've got where they want to be in life.
Yeah.
But when she's dated men who are her own age.
But is she?
harder.
But she is she single? She never married?
She is widowed.
Oh right. Okay.
Her
So
husband,
she was married.
She was married. Her husband had a tragic accident and
she
died.
and she has kids.
No,
Oh okay. So okay. But she was married. And she probably made the choice not to have kids.
I believe so.
Okay. So it's not. So she was able to meet someone that was the right
Yes.
person for her.
Yes, and
Okay.
they were very happy.
Yeah. So that's So she, even with all her accomplishments, was able to succeed in that part of her life.
Yes.
Okay, so basically there's some fine line. So then let's get to the next point, which is, the things that made you choose to marry your wife versus the other woman. So one of them you said was because she was a force to be reckoned with. So explain that to me a bit.
I like someone who can keep up with me
Okay.
intellectually,
Okay.
and someone who, I have many interests, and I
Yeah.
like someone who has many interests.
Okay.
Somebody who would just sort of sit at home
Right.
and be, and be content
Yeah.
was not what I
So
was
that's
looking
the
for.
compatibility.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So that's hugely important. So that's something. Okay. So it's somebody like who you like to do the same things, and obviously you're the same religion. So okay. Is there anything else? Obviously, she's an intellectual equal. Was there anything else to add to that?
Possibly. I can't think of anything at the moment. But
Okay. So then, now how about the long-term success of the marriage? What do you think? 'Cause I'm sure you've thought about this a lot in the time that you've been together. What do you think makes, and and also seeing from your friends and other people in your life who have successful marriages, what do you think makes a marriage last? What does a woman need to keep doing? What do they need to keep doing together? What do you think works and what do you think doesn't work?
I think having time together,
Okay.
you know,
Quality time.
and intimacy, makes, a big difference.
Okay.
Because, as one gets older, quite often one gets absorbed in one's career,
Right.
and that takes time, and that's time, and then if there are children,
Yeah.
that takes time. But you have to make time to nurture the relationship, forever.
Right. So always make time to spend quality time together, no matter what. So there are obviously times in a relationship, especially a long one, where one partner's off, one partner's on. Do you know what I mean? For example,
Yes.
mostly I focus with singles, but I've actually had quite a few actually, with clients and relationships. And I'm just wondering, there's a balance. Sometimes a partner is more distant. Sometimes a partner is
Yes.
closer. What can she do when she senses the distance from her partner to bring him back in? Is there anything she can do, or should she let him,
I would say to express interest, to talk about it,
Okay,
which in this country tends to not be the norm.
right. So explain that to me. So this
Well,
is like
the-
she brings up and she says, I feel your distance.
Well, or whatever, but there is an issue. Let's talk about it.
Yeah,
Where
okay.
the English don't tend to do that.
So you're saying she should proactively start that conversation?
I think that is always helpful, because it's people in this country don't talk about their feelings the way Americans do.
Right.
I think maybe the Americans are too far one way, the English, too far the other way. Somewhere in
Yeah.
the middle is probably the right ground, because you can overanalyze, you can overtalk, and that's not
Yeah.
good too.
I mean, I would say like a woman who's sensitive will be sensing her partner's distance
Yes.
before he even realizes what he's doing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do,
So
because I
should
can
she-
see that with I know what one of my children is going to do
Yeah.
before he even thinks about it. I could just,
And I'm a parent, so I know exactly what that is. Yeah.
yeah, so,
I can like you can sense. Well, for me, because my kids are young, I can sense the tantrum before it comes.
oh
And
yeah,
already I'm getting nervous. You know what I mean?
yeah, absolutely,
Yeah. So can we, as a woman, can we stop that tantrum? You know, from happening. You know what I mean? Can we stop if we sense the distance?
Yeah, put food in front of him.
Yeah. Yeah. So can we sense the distance before it gets too big and pull him back somehow? Or what would you suggest?
Well, I think that, I mean, you can't answer that question in general.
Yeah.
Every you know,
What would work with you?
well, if my wife felt that there were an issue, you know, whether I was aware of it or whether I wasn't yet aware of it, if she talked about it, I would, you know.
What's a good way to approach that? Because obviously we all, I mean, even me, I'm a woman and I still cringe at, can we talk? I mean, I have a relationship and every time he's like, oh, can we talk? A little part of me does a little leap.
Well, I think that's
There's something about can we talk that makes you nervous.
I think that goes back to sort of, you know, when we were children, that was usually a precursor to being chastised.
Yeah, maybe.
So there's, you know, that's baggage, which a lot of us have, and I have that too. So I think that it's important to find the right way
Yeah.
to broach a conversation, and the right way is different for each person, and it's
Yeah.
different for each conversation. You know, do you do it, you know, when the person gets home from work? Do you do it at the weekend? Do you know,
Right.
do you do it when you're alone? Do you do it at a restaurant? You know, I mean,
Yeah.
it's difficult to be prescriptive. You just have to find a way to do it that
Yeah.
works.
Is there anything you would suggest?
I think, you know, having time in the diary once a week where it's just the two of you is important, because if you're alone on a regular basis, you should have the dialogue. You know, whereas if you don't, you know, if you only go out when you're with other people, and otherwise you're at home with the children,
Yeah.
you don't have the time, because you know it's not like you don't want to jump on somebody like when they come home from the office.
Yeah,
You know, you need to have some space where you can just be a couple,
Right.
and that's hard as one gets older, because there's so many more demands on one's time.
Yeah.
So that's the place to start.
What about intimacy? I mean, I know a lot of men who complain that, you know, after a certain point, the woman has kids or whatever it is, the intimacy goes down the drain quite a bit. Like, how important is that?
Depends on the person. You know, some men it's vital, and
Right.
other men probably don't have a sex drive.
Right.
You know, it's some men have more testosterone than others,
Yeah.
and I know that diet and stress and exercise and many other things affect one's, you know, both testosterone and estrogen levels.
Right.
So that can be managed,
Uh-huh.
but different people have different.
But what if the woman feels the man kind of like slipping away, let's say, in that area where it's getting less and less? Is there a way she can bring it back?
Probably, but I mean, you won't know unless you try. So the most important thing is to try.
In what way?
Well, you have to try different things, because you know, there's more than one way to skin a cat,
Right.
and each person will respond to different things. So it could be from talking. It could be that maybe the man is disinterested because he's under so much stress that his testosterone levels are plummeting through the
Right.
floor, and therefore, you know, the stress has become a physical issue, and and that if you fix the stress and you fix the diet, that you'll get your testosterone back,
Yeah.
and things will
Yeah.
come to an equilibrium. Or it could be that there are issues in the marriage that need to be addressed.
Yeah.
So it's I'm not dodging the questions,
Yeah.
but every situation is different, and it's a matter of understanding what the variables are and working through them to figure out which one is this
And
one.
how do they do that?
Well, I think you first have to figure out, you know, what is the issue and what are the probable causes, and then which of those are more easily addressable.
Okay, how do they do that?
You have to start by talking.
Okay, so do you think her just, you know, addressing the situation, like, is it better for her to do it softly? Is it better for her to do it more directly?
I think it depends on the people, because, you know, what you know, what works for some people would be a turn off for others.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if, you know, I'm a fairly direct person, so if there's something that I don't want to talk about it, you'll know.
Right.
And if there's something I want to talk about, you'll know.
Right.
But you know, I know plenty of men who are indirect, and that's
Right.
the way they want it. So in order to get through to them, you have to be much more subtle and find other, you know, workarounds.
Right.
It can be done, but I think it's just a matter of appropriateness. It's you know, it's like managing relationships at the office,
Yeah.
or it's, you know, even like managing one's, you know, weight or stress levels. You have to try different approaches, and eventually you will find one that is the right one for your relationship. And you know, if at first you don't succeed, try again.
Okay, so basically she should persist and try to find some method of communication that works for them.
Correct.
Communication is very important.
Because how you communicate in your relationship
Yeah.
could be very different from how I communicate in mine.
Right, so communication is very tantamount to
I think-
success.
Everything I'm saying comes back to communication, really.
Okay.
For me, that's paramount.
And what about, so here's a question now. In this day and age of it's so easy to lead, you know, to kind of look elsewhere, what do you think keeps a man, like, with his partner, kind of tied with her and, let's say, exclusive to her?
I have a few friends who are within 10 years of my age,
Uh-huh.
who have never married, although they have had relationships, and they, you know, they're serial daters.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say this to them, but I think they're probably pretty lonely.
right,
And I think that because it is so easy today
yeah,
to find whatever you're looking for,
yeah,
that people become so picky.
right,
You know, I'm only dating somebody with this particular profile physically,
Yeah.
this profile intellectually, this profile
Yeah.
with their interests. You know, you can be, all relationships involve compromise.
uh-huh.
And you're never going to find everything that's perfect. And I think people have become such that they have unrealistic expectations because the technology allows us to just, you know, run through, you know, with these apps, you can just, it's like going to the supermarket.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's not what it's about.
Yeah,
But I think that being part of a community is very important, because if a person is part of a community, they belong, and they will be with other people who have similar profiles. And if you're in that environment, it should be easier to find someone that has the potential for long-term compatibility.
okay.
So it's you know, it's not that any one thing dominates.
Uh-huh.
I mean, at the end of the day, you have to respect and love yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you can't look in the mirror and say, I love you, how are you going to get anyone to love you?
Yeah,
You have to love yourself.
completely.
Now, that doesn't mean that we all love ourselves every day.
Yeah.
You know, there are, you know, we all have issues from time to time,
Uh-huh.
but on balance, you have to sort of find yourself and do what makes you happy before you can make someone else happy.
Totally. Great. Well, this is really helpful. Is there any other last advice that you want to give single women?
We've covered a fair amount.
Covered quite a bit. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for your help.
My pleasure.